Hey everybody, Dr. Zio here again, and today let's go ahead and talk about Power Rangers Dino Fury episode 7, Stego Search. So, this was our first Javi focused episode, and whoo boy, this was a dramatic one. I loved every single bit of it. So we're going to kind of skip around a little bit here. There's a chunk of this episode that I want to talk about at the end of the review, and that's the conflict between Javi and his father. So let's go ahead and talk about the other important bits so far. So the episode starts with Javi in the park, and my boy finally get his $900 keytar. Let me repeat that to you. $900 keytar. That thing's expensive. Like, I didn't realize keytars were that expensive. But on the flip side, he is really good at playing it because the whole park, I guess, or everyone within the vicinity gathered around to watch him play and listen to the music and all that. It was a nice scene. I appreciate the fact that he wasn't playing a rendition of Go-Go Power Rangers. It was an original piece as far as I could tell, and that was nice. I appreciate that because God knows that in previous seasons that would have been Go-Go Power Rangers or some sort of thing that sprinkled in large chunks of the song in there. So yeah, I appreciate that that's not what we got. But then Jane and Jayborg come in for our little comedic scene, or our first comedic scene with them for the episode, where Jayborg starts singing, and Jane seems surprised by this, even though Jayborg was singing earlier, like a few episodes ago when they were teaching the kids about the Ranger Hotline. I wasn't too sure why Jane was supposed to be surprised by that, but Jayborg's hair looked terrible. Like, my girl's hair looked awful. Like, Jane needs to do Jayborg's hair, or keep somebody on staff to do Jayborg's hair, okay? Because, boy, y'all need to get her hair straight, okay? My girl cannot be walking around like that. But anyway, Javi's dad, Jayborg starts belting out these opera notes, and that disturbs the birds. I guess it's mating season. So Javi's dad, Warden Garcia pops up. He's like, alright, y'all need to disperse. We're not doing all of this. You're disturbing the birds. It's mating season, blah, blah, blah. He ends up getting mad at Javi for reasons because Javi bought himself a $900 keytar with his own money. Like, we'll get to specifics about this interaction later on, but basically it ends up with Javi's dad taking away the keytar and going to return it. After that, we go back to Javi teleports to the base. He obviously has an attitude. He's very salty. But he's not too happy with the whole interaction. Now, while he was playing his keytar, the Rangers were over here using the Zord Finder that Solon actually made. In the previous episode, we talked about was it previous episode? It was like 1 or 2 episodes ago, just when Izzy was finding her Zord, that Solon was talking about using a Zord Finder to find the remaining Dino Fury Megazords. So, that Zord Finder is finally built, it's operational, however, they still can't find Javi's Stego Zord. That's because they can only use the keys to find any active Megazords, which I guess Javi's Zord is not currently active. And I thought about this scene, I'm like, did Solon not know this before? Like, I don't understand what the point was of having the Zord Finder if you knew that you can only search for active Megazords. Like, what made you think that the Stego Zord would not be dormant after all these years? Like, this isn't like Dino Charge where activating an Energem or activating a Dino Fury key in this situation would activate the Zord. Like, we've seen that that's not necessarily the case. But whatever. So they find out that the Stego Zord isn't necessarily active at the moment, so they can't really search for it. Although, there was a brief moment where it was active, and that was when Javi's playing his keytar. Eventually, we figure out that playing music, or Javi specifically playing music, activates or wakes up his Zord. So in this scene, everyone's like, well, what's wrong with Javi? Like, what's going on with Javi? And Izzy says, it might be gas. I guess the Garcia family has like a problem with gas. Like, what are y'all eating at that house? Because Izzy's not even biologically related to y'all, and she still has gas problems. So y'all need to change your diets. But anyway, one of the Rangers brings up Javi's gas problem to Javi, and the way he looks at Izzy, he's like, And like, yo, this is hilarious. Like, I loved it. I've said it before. I've said it in almost every review. The comedy in this season, especially the facial expressions from the Rangers and the rest of the cast, is always on point, and I absolutely love it. Anyway, after this scene is done, Javi teleports back into town, and then we go back to Area 46, Area 42. We go back to the villains. We end up going back to the villains' base, and we find that Mucus and Boomtower are just kind of chilling about, but Boomtower is very antsy. Like, he's not happy that he hasn't really been able to do anything, and he's not up to his full, powerful potential like he was supposed to be, you know, had he not messed up stealing the Nephrite orb. But anyway, he ends up taking a Sporix from the jukebox that they have in Area 62, Area 42, whatever the name of this the base was, and Mucus definitely warns him not to do that because Void Knight's not going to be happy. Boomtower does not care. He wants to have his full potential and to be able to use that to destroy the Rangers. So he takes a Sporix Beast, powers up with it, you know, jams it into his chest. Now he's got all this. He's got the muscle and the power now. So he teleports into town, and Izzy and Javi are having a discussion. You know, we're having one of that, you know, sibling dynamic moment, and I love it. You know, Izzy's trying to be there for her older brother. She's trying to figure out, you know, what's wrong? You know, we're family. You know, talk to me about this. Was it about the dishes? Because if it was about the dishes, that was definitely your night. And just as Javi's about to answer, Boomtower appears. So they morph. No one calls the Ranger hotline, which I was surprised. They use it later on in the episode, but I was just surprised that no one called the Ranger hotline here. Anyway, they morph. Izzy ends up calling the other Rangers. They pop up. They have a nice little fight with Boomtower where everyone's using some of the boost keys and a nice little combo. I love that. We all use boost keys that we've seen. I think one of the Rangers, I think it was Ollie, used a boost key we haven't seen so far. But the way they combined the powers of all the boost keys to kind of get the upper hand on Boomtower was really nice. And then Boomtower flips the script on them, powers up with the Sporix, and ends up one-shotting just about everyone. There's a little bit of a weird editing there where he shoots a beam at everyone, and we can clearly see the 5 Rangers are lined up in a row, and they all get hit by the blast. But only Ollie, Amelia, and Zato get blown back. Meanwhile, we switch back to American footage, and we have Izzy and Javi standing there. Javi has the shield boost key activated. He's protecting Izzy, and then like it was just weird editing between the Japanese and the U.S. footage in that scene. It just didn't sync up well. But anyway, he's protecting Izzy, and on his command, Izzy uses the I think it's the hyper boost key to run around Javi and go and attack Boomtower. Boomtower sees this coming, slashes at Izzy. She goes flying and demorphs and hurts her shoulder. So Javi goes over there, and the three remaining Rangers protect him. They go off in like a nice little unmorph fight. I dug it. We don't have many unmorph fights so far this season. I'm all about those kind of fights. But Javi, instead of teleporting to get Izzy out of there, he takes her around a corner, which I thought was weird, and they end up running into their dad. Their dad gets out of the truck. He sees that Izzy's injured. He's like, yo, what is going on? Brings us to our second altercation between Javi and Warden Garcia, which again, we'll get to this specific interaction later on in the review. I'm saving all this for the end because there's a lot I want to talk about between these two scenes, between the scene here and the scene at the beginning of the episode. But basically they have their interaction. Javi ends up going with the dad to take Izzy to the infirmary or the hospital or something like that. Then the other 3 Rangers go back to the base. They find out that, okay, it was Javi's music that activated the Stego key. Javi pops in. He's like, hey guys, Izzy's okay. She's going to be out for a little while. And then the Rangers are like, hey, we saw that video about with what happened in the park. Is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, it's okay. That's not the way I wanted to go viral. And I like the fact that he went viral for that. Again, it's a nice little modern day element that they've added to the episode there. But anyway, they figure out that, okay, music is what activates his Zord. So they split up. 3 Rangers go to fight Boomtower, who's now grown giant in the middle of the city. Javi goes off to go to this park where they've located the Zord, and then he starts playing his flute and activates his Zord. They get a new Megazord combination. They beat Boom Tower, but he doesn't blow up. He just shrinks back down to size. Oh, and one more thing. Sorry, in rushing through this, I forgot one more thing. After the Unmorph fight, I guess technically before the Unmorph fight, the Void Knight pops in. Just as Boom Tower was was about to destroy the Ranger, Void Knight pops in, pissed as all hell that Boom Tower stole his Sporks. He teleports Boom Tower and Mucus out of there, leaving the Rangers to have the Unmorph fight with the henchmen. And I'm like, bruh, Boom Tower could have had this nicely finished for you, and you could have had Sporks for days. Like, why did you do this? Like, I don't know. Void Knight feels like he should be threatening, but this man, I don't know. This is like the second dumb thing he's done this season. I don't really like it. But yeah, I don't know. It undermines what I think should be an intelligent character. But again, we're only 7 episodes in. We'll see more of Void Knight in these next, 12, 13 episodes. But anyway, that happened. And anyway, so yeah, they beat Boom Tower. He shrinks but doesn't get blown up. He teleports out of there. And then the Rangers go back to Buzz Blast. And Ollie, Amelia, and Zato purchased a new keytar for Javi. And they said that all 3 of them pitched in for this keytar, but I'm like, that doesn't sound right to me. Zato does not have a job. This boy poor as hell, okay? This man does not have a job whatsoever, because he didn't get hired by Buzz Blast. And they haven't mentioned him getting a job, so he definitely didn't pitch in. Ollie, as far as we know, Ollie and his mother travel around a lot. We don't know that he has a job. He might have an allowance of some sort, but it doesn't really seem like my man has an actual job, because they haven't said anything like that yet. And we can assume that all these Rangers are somewhere in their early 20s, except for Izzy, who's obviously, who's in high school. So we can assume that Ollie either gets allowance from his mom still, or maybe he has a job or savings or something off to the side. But if that thing's $900, that means that at most Ollie and Amelia pitched in $450 apiece. Amelia already has a job, so we know that she definitely pitched in something. We just don't know about Ollie. I don't see any reason why Ollie, from what we've seen of him, I don't see any reason to assume that Ollie would have pitched in money here. So I'm going to assume that what happened here was that Amelia is the one who paid for it. And they'll just kind of sign their name on the card. It was like a Christmas present from the parents. So whatever, that's just a little observation I had there. But anyway, Javi is thankful to everyone. He apologizes about his attitude earlier. Izzy's okay. She comes into the scene with like a nice little sling for her arm. Javi ends up playing his keytar. Everyone in Buzz Blast ends up dancing. J-Board doesn't know what dancing is, but she, Jane entices her or tells her, just start dancing, start rocking your body and whatnot. So, oh god. J-Board does like this spinning move, and then hijinks ensue. She ends up burrowing deep into the ground and bumping into or destroying a water pipe, and water comes spewing out. And everyone's just like, ha 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 ha, this is so funny. I'm like, is it though? Like, how much damage did she just cause? Like, is your insurance that good? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't like scenes like that. Like, it's too over the top for me. Like, the stuff earlier in the episode was perfectly fine. Like, the fart joke or digestive tract joke was perfectly fine. This, not so much. But anyway, I digress. So, that's the main part of the episode. So let's go ahead and circle back to the actual conflict between Javi and his father. So, at the start of the episode, we have Javi playing his keytar. His father intervenes. He says that Javi has gone through, 3 instruments so far this month? So it was a violin, the whistle, and a harmonica. So he's gone through 3 instruments so far this month. And so Warden Garcia is not happy that Javi then went ahead and bought a keytar. So that's when he goes ahead and tells him, I'm going to return this to you. Or I'm going to return this. And then after Javi teleports out of the base and back into the city, they're trying to... before that, someone asks Izzy, where's Javi? And Izzy replies that, knowing Javi, he's probably out practicing his instrument for the month or something to that effect. So both Warden Garcia and Izzy have let us know that Javi has a thing where he recycles through multiple instruments, and instruments are expensive. And I'm gonna come back to this here in a minute. But later on in the episode, after Izzy gets injured and Javi and Izzy run into Warden Garcia, he's not happy that Izzy's injured. He asks them, what happened, and Javi tells him that they ran into a monster. The Black Ranger saved us, and I'm gonna read this just verbatim from my notes here. But Javi says, "I tried to protect her." Warden Garcia responds with, "Then why is Isabella hurt and you're fine? You didn't try hard enough." And that was rough. That was entirely too rough. That, Warden Garcia was out of line for the way he phrased it. I actually don't fault him for being angry in that moment, though, because everything we've seen so far in this episode has further reinforced the idea that Javi does have commitment issues. Javi so far this month has already gone through 3 different instruments and has not committed to either one of them, even though he's still kind of playing the whistle, but he still hasn't really committed to a de facto instrument. We know here that, instruments are expensive. That keytar was $900. We don't know who paid for the violin, who paid for the whistle, who paid for the harmonica. If we know that Javi had the harmonica during his debut, before he came over to Buzz Blast. So we can assume that his father probably paid for that, or probably helped subsidize it, or whatever. So if his father's the one who's paying for all these instruments prior to the keytar, then I get why he's mad about that. The same thing happened to me when I was a kid. I went through so many different sports, and I quit all of them. And I was a kid, that makes sense. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do. Javi is a grown-ass adult, or at least in his 20s. You can do that kind of stuff, but when you're on your own parents' dime, I wouldn't advise it. Because when I did that, when I went through sport after sport after sport, my dad eventually said, "All right, you know what? We're done. We're not doing this anymore. I spent way too much money here." If we're to assume that Warden Garcia is the one who's paying for all these things outside of the keytar, then yeah, he's probably spent a lot of money on lessons, gear, and whatnot, just for Javi. Keep in mind that Izzy has her own stuff that he probably has to pay for. He's also a single dad, or we can assume that he's a single dad because no one mentions their mom. So yeah, I understand that he's probably under some sort of financial stress in that situation, and just not happy that his son can't commit to anything. Warden Garcia specifically says that when he looks at the $900 price tag for the keytar, that Javi could have saved that money. So it's obvious here that Warden Garcia is trying to instill some sort of positive financial mind state into his son, or I guess positive attitudes in his son, or responsibility. There we go, a sense of responsibility in his son, and it's not really sticking with Javi so far. So for Izzy to get injured later on in the episode, and looking at it from Warden Garcia's perspective, where he knows that his son does not really commit to anything that much, it stands to reason he would assume that, the reason Izzy is injured and Javi isn't is because Javi did not commit to actually saving his sister. He was lazy with it, or only went, half-hearted into it, and that led to her being injured. So I get why he's mad. I think that it's completely valid for him to be mad in that moment. I understand why he blew up. His specific wording was completely out of line. That was too much. That was a lot. However, I'm surprised that he didn't have another scene later on in the episode where he went to go to apologize for Javi, not necessarily for being mad, but for the words that came out of his mouth. I was surprised that didn't happen. And I'm surprised because this is Power Rangers. I expected this to be resolved in some way, shape, or form in the same episode. I'm used to that kind of conflict being resolved in just 1 or 2 episodes here. These last 10 years that Power Rangers has been going on under the Neo Saban and now the Hasbro era, and I'm happy that it's not. I'm happy that we left this on such a sour note between the two of them, because that's good. I like conflict in my Power Rangers. I like that kind of drama to persist, and for us to actually have some decent character development moments later on. And I'm really excited to see where they really end up going with this. Is it going to, are we going to have Javi, becoming more responsible? Are we going to have Warden Garcia becoming a more understanding dad? Are they going to meet halfway, or is it going to blow up and they're just not going to fix things between the two of them? Are we going to have a fractured relationship between this ranger and his father for the rest of the episode? Because I don't remember the last time that happened in Power Rangers, and I'll be very excited for that to happen. Although I'm not banking on it, nor am I kind of encouraging it. I'm just excited for the prospect of where this can go, because so far Dino Fury's been really good, and I'm really, really trusting the writers to kind of pull off whatever they have planned for this relationship between the two of them. Because so far, the Garcia family is probably my favorite part of this whole show. Like, they're just great. They're absolutely great, and I can't wait to see what the show has planned for them for the rest of the season and even season 2. But anyway, those are my thoughts for the episode. Let me know what y'all think about in the comment section. Until next time, get your vaccine. Vaccine appointments are available in numerous states at this point. Search up on the CDC website. Get your vaccine. Be safe out there. Still wear a mask, because you can still contract COVID even if you've gotten all of your shots, and you can still give it to people who are less fortunate, who can't really get access to the vaccine for one reason or another. But yeah, be safe, basically. Have a good weekend, and yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.